for a tutorial, a very practical application of how do you clean your database. First, I'll explain who the heck we are, so you know whether we're worth listening to, if we have any experience in this. Austin, Andrew, and myself, we all work at a company called Pringer Solutions Group. We are a boutique, very specialized, very nerdy company. We do fundraising consulting. So we run large multi-million-dollar annual appeals for nonprofits. We also provide some database administration services. Austin is one of our brilliant database consultants for clients that use Razor's Edge specifically. And we also do and are increasing the amount of work we're doing in fundraising automation. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. It is absolutely the future. You're going to want to know enough to be dangerous about automation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We have 15 people that work for PSG. We work for all of the amazing organizations that you see there on the screen and lots more. We've got a really varied background from religious organizations to colleges and universities to community nonprofits. We are the nerdiest bunch of fundraisers that you will ever find. So nerdy, in fact, that about 2 years ago we actually built a software tool called AskGenius. That's what Andrew Menke oversees. The gist of what AskGenius does, which we won't talk about more than these next couple slides here to give you some background. It is a tool that we built because we were running large fundraising appeals for our clients, and we needed a really good way to set custom ask amounts for like thousands of donors at a time, right? So if we're going to mail out to thousands of donors or tens of thousands of potential donors, we needed a way. We didn't want to send everybody the same pledge card. We wanted to optimize it, right? Make sure that everybody got the right ask string and right ask amount based on their giving history and wealth research and zip code and affluence. We used to do it in Excel. That was a huge pain in the butt. Andrew almost quit, which really would have hurt our company. So we're like, oh, we got to find a better way to do this so that people don't quit. So we built a tool to use internally, and then it turns out it's really useful and really good, and it helps people raise a ton more money. So we put it out into the world. It is called AskGenius. So all of these webinars that we do, they're hosted by AskGenius. We always give people the opportunity if they want to learn more about it. And we actually, Andrew, we've got a little promotion going on right now. The first promotion that we've ever done. I'll start with this. How is Andrew? How's your bracket doing?
Oh, it's awful. It's better than last year though, but that's not saying much. So
I have a hunch it's better than Austin's bracket.
Yeah, everything I picked went the other direction.
Austin was long on the University of Virginia, which proved troublesome after the first day. The good news for all of us is that my Creighton Blue Jays are doing spectacularly this year in the tournament. They made the Sweet 16. They won on Sunday night against Baylor. So to make things fun, because life is short and we should all have fun, we're rolling out a little promotion. And you can talk to Andrew Menke about this if you're curious. Creighton plays on Friday with a chance to make the Elite Eight. They're going to play against Princeton. So what we're doing is, if you are not yet using AskGenius, and I know many of the folks here, we got a couple hundred people on the line. I know many of you are already using it. If you're not using AskGenius yet, wait, watch the game. If Creighton wins that game against Princeton at 8 o'clock, as they're favored to do, we will give you 50% off your first year of AskGenius. Let's keep it going. We're going to get even crazier. If Creighton wins that game, they play again on Sunday against either the #1 seed in the whole tournament, which is Alabama, or San Diego State, who we've already played and beaten this year. If that happens and Creighton makes the Final Four, I'll probably have a heart attack, which would be fine, right? I'm willing to pay that price if Creighton makes the Final Four. But we will also give you 75% off for new AskGenius subscribers. So the fine print on this is very simple. All you have to do a demo. So maybe you've already done a demo of the product. Again, this is only new customers, so sorry if you're already using AskGenius, you're out of luck. But you have to attend a demo before the tip-off on Friday. There's 2 ways you can do that. We're doing a public demo. Menke, we're doing that on Thursday, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's probably your best bet, because we can open that up to a lot of folks. So you can attend the public demo on Thursday. We can put the link in the chat, or you can book a private one-on-one demo with Andrew. There's probably not a whole bunch of slots left between now and Friday. We can, if you have if you're there representing a large organization and you're like, oh, I got to get my data person, my development director on the line, so we can do just a one-on-one demo. That's fine. We got a link there for you to do that as well. So that's AskGenius. That's what pays all the bills, is this little tool that we built. You'll love it. It'll raise you more money. It'll save you time. Everybody wins. We're going to set that aside. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is Austen Brown and how wonderful she is at cleaning databases, keeping databases clean. So she's going to walk through for us how to clean data, or why it's important, how you start, what you should focus on. She's going to walk through some examples, and then she's going to talk about how you can automate your cleanup. While she shares her screen, I'll do some housekeeping. 1, yes, this is being recorded. 2, Austen is an expert at Razor's Edge. She's an expert at all things data, but a lot of the examples that we're going to share are related to Razor's Edge NXT, because that's what almost all of our clients use. That's changing as the days go by, but we are going to share examples from Razor's Edge. So the principles will still apply if you're on a different system like Salesforce or Virtuous or Bloomerang or Salsa or Classy or any of those, but the screenshots are NXT. So I just want to be clear about that. And I also want to agree, somebody just mentioned in the chat that Austen rocks. Austen indeed does rock. She is the best of us. So Austen, why don't you take it away? Tell us, why do we really need clean data? Is it all that important? What do we need to know here?
All right. Well, clean data in its simplest form is just called data hygiene. So the process to ensure that your data is clean means that it's without errors. And just to sort of describe what that means is, here's a few examples. So if you have errors or inaccuracies, so in a few, I'll have a bunch of things pop up on the screen and I'll talk through it a little bit. So we can see here that Cliff's is spelled wrong in an address, and the email has some typos in it. So both of these would prevent you from talking with your donors. Duplicates, more than just duplicate constituents. That can be duplicates in a table. They mean the same things, but they're different words. So reduce that down and you could probably have clean data in this table. The next is redundant tracking. So that's tracking the exact same thing in multiple locations. Here it's in a solicit code, but it's also in an attribute.
Awesome. That's already my favorite one, because when I think of dirty data, I'm always like, you know, we get a list and then somebody's email is spelled wrong, or clearly like the name is in all caps or something. But that's the sneaky one. Like when you're tracking in 2 different places and you don't even know that you have bad data because somebody else was tracking it somewhere else, you're already killing it.
Yes, and it makes the lives of your DBA harder, right? So when you pull a mailing list, you have to remember the 5 different locations to pull the same set of data out instead of just one, right?
Yes, which then builds up over time, and you never take the time to clean it up. You're just like, oh, that's okay, I'm going to live forever, and I always remember how to do this, right up until the point that you don't want to do that anymore.
Yes, and right until the point you forget something, right? So
Yeah.
just track it in one place.
Or somebody else goes in and tries to pull a list from your database and they don't know all that stuff, and then horrible things happen.
Exactly. The last one is sort of inconsistent data entry. So we can see here Cameron's nickname is Cammy. Great that the database, that you're keeping track of that information, but the capitalization isn't consistent to sort of the proper one, right? So just paying attention to all the little bits and pieces. So here are a few benefits of having improved data, of having clean data. So your data quality will improve, and that lends itself well to building trust in your system, not only with the people that use it every day, but with the data that you get out of it. You'll have better data-driven decisions, so your decision-making will improve. You can talk to your donors in new ways, right? So you can let them know that they're seen, you see their value in your organization, and you see how they help improve your mission, right? You really see who they are and you can talk to them in new ways. You have improved efficiencies. This is my favorite. I am always happiest when I am working smarter, not harder. And there's nothing I hate more than exporting data out of a database and having to manipulate it in some way to come to the final result. So by improving your data, the consistency, the tracking, what have you, you can reduce down that extra work that you need to do. And then ultimately you have cost savings. So less staff time spent doing extra things and less mail returned, right? So you're doing good things with your donors' money.
I'm assuming, Austen, that also on here is just something, even I'm a simple animal, right? Fewer headaches, right? Like isn't it just fewer moments in the day when you want to like slam your coffee cup down and be like, this is the worst? Isn't that really what we're talking about here?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Less frustrated moments.
Yeah.
So here are a few areas to pay attention to and how to get started. So we recommend that you complete a data assessment on your database. So what this really means is you want to take a look at your data and how you track it. So look for patterns of redundancy, of errors. You want to review your data for common data entry mistakes, so typos. We're all human, right? We can't type in words 100% correct all the time. So just paying attention to that. Reviewing records that might be missing required fields or donor metrics. So this comes into play when you're running reporting, right? So you don't want to manipulate data outside of the database to add things, just track it in the database. Make sure you're looking at all types of records, not just constituent and gift records. There's event records, there's funds, appeals, campaigns. Make sure that everything is up to snuff. And you'll want to review first the areas that have a high level of use. So the areas that you most often frequent for mailing lists or email lists, or how you talk to your donors, how you track giving, that sort of stuff. So we'll go into that in a little bit detail next.
Quick question, Austen. Is there an easy way? So can you talk about data assessment tool? Again, I know this is Razor's Edge. Like, is there a data card that you can pull? Like, what does that look like?
I would say start with your data health thing. So in Razor's Edge, there's one in Database View and one in Web View. I'm positive that other CRMs also have some sort of data health assessment included in them as well. And that should give you a good sort of high level indicator. And then just sort of take a look in terms of how you want to get the data out. So how do you plan to use it? Make sure that you're putting data in the way that you can best get it out.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So first, you'll sort of want to pay attention. So this is Database View. There's a couple tabs you'll want to sort of zero in on. And the first one is the Bio1 or Org1 tab. And you'll want to pay attention to biographical data. Granted, the organization side is not very much, but mostly this is for individuals. In that regard, you'll also want to pay attention to contact information, as this is your primary mechanism for talking to your donors. And then you'll also want to sort of these oddball ones down in the right. So if someone's anonymous, you want to make sure you're tracking that. If they don't want email, communication preferences, what have you, just making sure you're being consistent in that regard. And then an area that's often overlooked but highly used, addressee salutations. So setting your primary addressee and salutation for the things you'll use most often. Set those as primary. If you have additional addressee and salutations, evaluate whether you actually need them or not. So if you never use them, what's the point in having them, right? And putting all that time and effort into maintaining them. So just sort of taking a look at the extra stuff. And then lastly, you also want to take a look at your gift history and tracking. So particularly these highlighted fields, right? So the ones that are being used most often in reporting, in tracking, that sort of thing, directly related around revenue. So once you've sort of completed your review, now you can set your standard. So take the results and put them into a data entry standard for your organization. Now, you can enter this however you would like. I like to use Word documents, but I think that's a little old school nowadays. I've heard of folks using a wiki document in Teams, using OneNote. But the general idea is make sure that it's saved in a central location so that your staff can easily utilize it themselves. There's nothing worse than putting all this time into a data entry standard to have it sit stagnant and never used.
And to be clear, that is what will happen 95% of the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we're being honest here, Austen, you're going to do this. The DBAs on the line are going to create this. They're going to show it to everybody, but then it's still going to fall in the DBA to remind folks, right?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, a data entry standard is just a guidelines for you how to clean up your data, and what everyone agrees on. I will say that there's a great post by Spring in the Blackbaud community where she goes into depth talking about how to build a policy and procedure document, including samples. So rather than talk through all of that, I'll just point you in the direction of a great resource.
Spring Velasquez, friend of PSG and AskGenius and database administrator extraordinaire.
The sort of general idea of a standard at the end of the day is consistency is key. So no matter what you decide to do, how you decide to do it, what have you, just make sure it's consistent across the board. Here are a few thoughts of things to think through when you're considering to set a new standard, so a change over something that you've done before. So you want to make sure that it's beneficial to track this data in this way. So how do you plan to use it moving forward? Is it in a location that's easy to export and use outside of the database, et cetera, et cetera? This is an important one. Are you planning on tracking this in an area that's not native to the database? So are you inventing something new? I will always err on the side of use a native field, use a native process, use the database how it was intended. This will make your life so much easier in the long run. And then the third one is, how difficult is it to maintain this over time? So say you want to tag a constituent in a particular way every time X event happens. Well, you do it the first time, that's great. You've got the database up to date. But what happens every single time that event happens in the future? How do you know to tag that constituent moving forward? How much effort is going to go into making sure that this piece of your data is up to date all the time, right? If the amount of time outweighs the actual benefit, then that's something to think about in your decision-making process.
As a reminder, as we go, so the chat's super active. If you have questions, make sure that you put your questions in the Q&A tab. That way, when we're done, Austen and I can roll through those and make sure we get to all of them. I'll do my best to remember, but you know what happens. The chat's going to scroll up and we're going to lose track of all the questions that were asked. So make sure to use that Q&A button on your screen if you want to make sure that we get to your question.
All right. So the next area is how do you go about doing this? Well, you'll want to take a look at your new incoming data on a weekly or monthly basis. The best way to do this is to set up maintenance queries in database view, put them in a specific folder or name them according to a standard where you can easily find them. You'll probably start out with 10, 15 queries, but as you find error patterns, so more than one of the same general error, chances are that exists elsewhere in your database. So you'll want to create a maintenance query for that. You might end up with 50 or more kind of thing, but at the end of the day, your data is getting clean with every time you look at those queries. So
Austen, when you're talking about an error pattern, are you talking like all caps would be a pattern that would drive me nuts, right? So one of our data entry people is yelling all the time into their computer, or like road being spelled out versus like RD. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like I guess a good example of it would be for gift entry kind of thing, or for like inputting contact information. So it's sort of things related to that higher level of use areas where, say, an addressee isn't entered and you find that on 2 records, then you need to create a maintenance query that looks for primary addressee is blank. Got it.
So you look and see what's commonly mistaken, then you set up your maintenance query, which is how you're going to catch it going forward. Okay.
Yeah, and I encourage setting up maintenance queries so that it only shows results if there's a problem, right?
Yes.
So addressee equals blank will show you only the records that don't currently have an address. When you clean them up, they disappear. It's great.
Awesome.
Okay. The other piece of this is you'll want to bring your historical data up to your new standard, right? So that will aid in reporting. I recommend starting with the years closest to the one you're occurring in and then working your way back. That way, if you're running sort of decade comparison reports, you have a good chunk of data to start with. There are a few things available to us from Blackbaud to help us improve our data quality, particularly around accuracy. So these are a few of the options, and my favorite ones have an asterisk.
What is Austen? What's the difference between Address Accelerator and Address Finder? And keep in mind, again, for folks that aren't using Razor's Edge NXT, these are Razor's Edge NXT specific. I'm sure there's corollaries in all the other systems. But Austen, what's the difference between those first two?
So Address Accelerator is validating your addresses. So it's adding the extra 4 digits onto a zip code. It's giving you a county, and it's giving you some postal field information as well. But really, it will either return with, yes, this succeeded, it's a true address, or no, there's a failure, and it will explain why. And then it'll be up to you to sort of research what went wrong and what number is wrong in there that you need to sort of fix. Address Finder is running your database through the NCOA, the National Change of Address database, and coming back with new addresses for any of your constituents that have moved and registered that move with the U.S. Postal Service.
Got it. And the Deceased Finder, I'm always shocked how many of our clients we start working with that haven't run this before. If you are a Blackbaud customer, you've probably gotten super scary emails in the last 2 weeks threatening that you need to pay a lot more money to move up to another band. A good way to avoid that: run your Deceased Record Finder, get your constituents down. Again, I don't want to go too far into detail on that because I'm already probably keeping us over time here, Austen, but it always shocks me how many people don't use Deceased Record Finder. And Credit Card Updater is the greatest thing in the entire world. The future is recurring giving. You need those credit cards on file, so if you can get those updated, all the better. Okay.
Yes. Here are a few examples of queries that I look at every week and some projects that I've worked on in the past few years. So we're going to take this 5 queries at a time, and then I'm going to show you how to build one. So this particular query is looking for addresses that have not been run through Address Accelerator yet. So I know county is a field that's provided by Address Accelerator. This query is looking for US-based addresses that haven't been run through and don't have an exception error that I then need to research. So the main goal, right, is to get only the people that I need to do something with into the results of the query. The next one is we're going to take a look at recently deceased. So every organization seems to have their own standard for how deceased is tracked in their system. But what this really does is it's pulling together deceased in the last calendar year that was updated in the last week, so that I can go through and make sure that all the little bits and pieces are correctly put in, right? So all the different variations. Does it have an obituary? Is it marked deceased? You know, all that sort of stuff. Does it have a deceased date? All the important stuff to keep track of. I will note that deceased date equals does not return the dynamic fields that you think it would, which is why this is more broad reaching than I think I initially realized when I wanted to build it. The next one is my favorite. So finding typos in emails before it becomes a problem. So I try to find errors in emails before they return as hard bounced, if at all possible. So all the typos that you see here are things that I found in actual emails. So it's like back to that error pattern, right? I found it once, it's probably going to happen again. So, I mean, even this morning, I found an email in a database that didn't have an @ sign.
Austen, that sound you hear is hundreds of people taking a screenshot of this slide right now and thinking, "Oh man, that's a really good idea." I love this slide.
Yes, I will point out that this piece down at the bottom is sometimes valid emails qualify for this, and they shouldn't, right? So what I'll do is if something qualifies and it looks like it's a real email, I'll run it through an online validator. And if it comes back as success, then I'll put the comment valid email in there so that it won't show up in the future.
Yep. Online validator, we use Email Hippo. Are there other ones out there, or is that any others?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Even free plug for Email Hippo. We use them. They're cheap. It's a good way to. They'll send a ping and you'll get a report. You can send tons of email addresses, and they'll ping them without sending emails, and you'll get back. These ones are good. These ones are definitely bad. And then here's some ones we weren't able to quantify, which is helpful because then you can send stuff out without getting blacklisted or email a bunch of spam addresses.
You don't want to impact your email deliverability. It's
correct. Yep, Paula, that's right. Email Hippo, as in the large. I was gonna say mammal, but I don't think it's a mammal. Austen, what's a hippo?
I don't know. I'm a database manager.
That's a mammal. I'm pretty sure.
Andrew's going on a limb and saying a hippo is a mammal, so the large African mammal. Thank you.
Don't quote me on that, please.
Yeah, no, Jenna and Spring said you're right. They're mammals. Okay, email Hippo. Go on.
The last one is making sure that solicitors or your fundraisers are credited appropriately on gifts. So this query is as looking for gifts from the last week or added in the last week that don't have a solicitor listed on them. And this is more important for your sort of front end fundraisers. They want to get credit for bringing gifts in, and their boss wants to keep track of where they are to goal. So this one query helps support that. I usually start with looking for gifts without a solicitor, and then I move on to double checking gifts that have a solicitor credited. Here are some real world data maintenance projects. So duplicates. Top of mind, you should keep on top of it, always build it into your weekly, monthly review process, and make sure you're utilizing the existing tools to get this done. So if you have Reader's Edge NXT, you need to merge your duplicates in WebView first. I know this is like a hotly contested thing occasionally, but if you are doing things in WebView, not all of that data exists in database view. So to account for that, you need to merge in WebView first, then take a look at it in database view and continue on. I have written up a detailed step-by-step guide on what you need to do from start to finish. And it is posted in the Facebook group.
Facebook group, Austen, be more specific for folks that may not be Razor's Edge folks.
The Razor's Edge Support Forum Facebook group. I think Spring or one of the admins made it a featured post, so you can find it right at the top of the page.
Awesome. And thank you, Spring, for putting that in the chat.
Oh, thanks. I can't see the chat, so.
You're busy. You're the star of the show. You got to keep rolling. I'll do the other stuff.
The next one is a project I'm particularly proud of. So I did this for a database a few years ago, is comparing existing data that might be hidden against your records, right? So it's looking at the credit card holder name field for online gifts against what's on a constituent record. So utilizing data you already have to help supplement, sort of the forward-facing stuff. So we can see here that Jay made a gift, and on his credit card, we got his legal name and his middle name. So we were able to update his record accordingly. And ultimately, this helps you with locating and comparing duplicates, and as well as ensuring that gifts are coded on the right constituent record. I've seen some instances around events where like a parent registers a child and the gift ends up on the child's record, that sort of stuff. So making sure coding is correct.
Austen, this one's a big hit in the chat, just so you know.
Good. The third one is establishing a preferred name field. So you can repurpose the nickname field in database view to do this. It off the bat reduces the number of addressee salutation formulas that you need, particularly if you make it required for both the primary spouse and that sort of partial relationship record. And based on how this field is displayed in WebView, it's displayed as a preferred name. So it lends itself well. So we can see here, Allison didn't have a nickname, therefore her preferred name is Allison. All righty. And the last bit is table cleanup. So there is a plugin tool available to you in configuration when you go look at the back end of tables. And you can clean up things. So we can see here our initial example of completed and finished. We are replacing finished with completed, and it will take care of this on any action within the system for us. And this ultimately enables just a quick and easy way for you to have clean data entry, and it reduces a whole bunch of things. And it makes your fundraisers happy because your tables are not as long.
Yes.
I will also say, in terms of security and permissions, it is always a good idea to lock down permissions for who has rights to add new things to tables. So that will help you sort of manage this area as well.
And it also helps to like assume it's never evil intent, right? People that are messing up your database, they don't want to mess up your life. They just don't know any better. So the better guardrails we can put around, if you can make things a drop-down menu instead of a free-form entry, like everybody's well-intentioned, but our jobs, right, as DBAs are to put those guardrails around it. So lock it down.
I will also add that data maintenance is a never-ending project, right? So this will always be ongoing. You will find new things to clean up. You may finish others, but it's just this continuing process that will always be happening because hopefully new data is always coming into your system. All right, so now we're on to the fun part. So this is the power of automation. So Blackbaud in the last few years has put out a few connectors in Power Automate. And Power Automate is a low-code, no-code solution that you can leverage to automate your business processes. And it's a tool available to you within the Office 365 platform. And you can connect your Razor's Edge database to Power Automate. That's like kind of like you can teach a robot, right, to do things for you automatically in the background, scheduled, lots of options. And so say you want to send a notification out to fundraisers every time someone in their portfolio makes a gift. So by getting your data into Power Automate, you can send out an email through Outlook or Gmail and get the data into your fundraisers' hands immediately. You can also connect with every application within the Office 365 suite, as well as 300 other applications around the interwebs. Here's just a sampling of what's possible. By utilizing Power Automate, you can get maximum output with minimal effort. Simply, you can do more with less.
Austen, what I'm hearing you say, and as we go through these, this is basically that magic button that Denise was talking about in the chat. Like, and we will have, trust me, folks, we will have so much more on automation. We'll even have a spot where you can hear, sign up to learn more as we roll out more resources. But automation, Austen's underselling it. It is absolutely mind-blowing what we've been able to do. Things that happen inside of Razor's Edge by connecting it to Power Automate, it is, if you can think it, you can almost certainly automate it. Sorry, Austen, I interrupted you.
No, it's good. It's really like the sky isn't even the limit. Like, once I learned how to do Power Automate, I would complete some of those tasks, that I had talked about previously in the 20 queries or the long-term projects. And the more you think about it, you're like, I can make a robot do this for me, or I can make a robot do a piece of this. Yes. And I take over the rest, right?
That's exactly what I was saying. When you went through your 20, I'm like, once you get into automation, like nothing looks the same, right? But I'm looking at your list of 20 and I'm like, every one of those, even like, hey, look for an email address that's wrong or blah, blah, blah. One, you could have a robot fix it for you, but you could also just be like, run this query every night and send me an email with anything that pings. Like, that's life-changing to a whole bunch of database administrators, for example.
Yeah. So we have 7 examples of how you could build a flow in Power Automate to do data cleanup for you.
Mhm.
You could alert when duplicate constituents are created in your system. You can automatically fill in that preferred name field if it's blank. You can mark emails or phones as primary, and you could even take it one step further to validate emails in advance and receive a notification if it comes back as false. You can allow non-privileged users to submit a record change and build in a decision process within the flow to either make that change or consult you on what to do with it.
Which could be, again, well, I don't want to give too much away. Austin, that could be something as simple as a dedicated Slack channel or Teams channel, right? Like a little thing pops up in Teams and then you either click yes, approve this
You
change, or
click
no,
yes,
right?
no, and the flow has decision branches, right? So if you say no, this happens. If you say yes, this other thing happens. Yeah, it's super
Yes.
cool.
It's amazing.
You can update consent records and solicit codes directly from constituent emails. And you can mark records as with a blank address as having no valid address. And to kick this off, we're going to give you 7 more ideas on how you can use Power Automate to help with gift processing. So you could automatically run your donor acknowledgement letters overnight, a piece you don't have to be involved in anymore except to print and mail them. You can provide an email supplement to your year-end tax letters.
So think what that would do. The email supplement, what that solves is all of us who are in that position, January 2nd rolls around, we go back to the office and the phones are ringing off the hook from everybody's like, I'm just dying to do my taxes. Where's that tax receipt letter? I need that data. Like, just automate an email that shoots out to folks and says, here's all the gifts we have that you made to our organization this year. Like, stop yourself from getting 100 phone calls when you can just email it out. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. This is one of my favorite. You can bring data in as it's received through an online census form into Razor's Edge. You could alert your staff when a large gift is received from an unassigned donor. So rather than discovering that 2 months from now, they can know tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
Alert staff when an opportunity has an upcoming ask. Alert your gift officers when a portfolio donor makes a gift. And automatically tag constituents based on a particular event. Now, yes. So these are 14 examples of how you can get Power Automate to work for you.
And you called me, Austin, I was replying, so everyone's looking for slides. Yes, as a reminder, we are recording this and we'll send you the link. And yes, we also will give you the ability. I don't know, Andrew, if we probably won't attach the slides. We'll probably give you a link where you can like download a PDF of the slide. So just so that everybody knows, we will.
Yeah, one way or another, we'll get them to you.
Yep.
By this afternoon. So.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. So thank you, Austin. That is incredible. We have so many questions there. So I'm going to let me actually so hold on before that. I'm gonna do a poll because everybody goes nuts about Automate. If you want to learn more about this, so we, with Austin and Stacy Cope on our team and the folks, we've been really digging into this automation for 2 years now, right? As soon as they announced that this exists, we started digging in. And as you can see, we're super excited about all the stuff that you can do. Drafting donor emails from major gift officers based on a gift that came in or didn't come in, like it's nuts what you can do. So we are going hog wild on this. We're going to release in July is the plan. We're going to release a whole bunch of help on this and even some automated services. So if you want to know more about that, this is the way. We don't have anything to offer you yet, but you can get on the waiting list for when we announce all the stuff we're doing. We will always, as we do with AskGenius, we will always share everything we know. Like we've committed as a firm to build in public. So all of the stuff we're talking about, you can go learn to automate. Austin, what does it cost for an automation subscription?
I think most nonprofits can get it for $10 a month per user. And
Right.
It's really recommended that you get 2 users to get this sort of certified license.
Yep. Awesome. So it's relatively cheap. What it just takes is brain power, right? I see a lot of names on here. Many of the smartest minds in fundraising are on this webinar. So you can go for cheap, get an automation account and there's community groups out there and you can teach yourself and learn it, which is awesome. That's what we did. If you don't have time for that, what we're coming out with is some simple automation wins, like, hey, you want to draft donor emails, or you want to, set up an automation that does your gift acknowledgement for you. That's what we'll roll out. Again, we won't launch it until July. We're still fine tuning things, but if you want, you can go put yourself on the waiting list. It's at automategenius.com. So feel free to check it out. With that, Andrew, you've had a chance. I've been trying to listen to Austen and weigh in and keep an eye on the Q&A. Do you have any quick Q&As that we should get to? And Austen, you can stop
so
sharing
many.
I know there's a bunch. Yeah, there we go.
This is great. Let's see here. Let's start with we got a lot of questions actually. Some of these features, do they work? Are there only ones that work in the US? Is it limited to the US? Can the UK, can Canada use them as well?
The old Canada question about like address finder stuff. Austen, we will never hold ourselves out as experts if we don't know an answer, but if we know, we'll share.
I think there's a specific version maybe that Canadians can use, but I'm only familiar with the US version.
Right. So, and if someone is a Razor's Edge user and they want to know that, I'm guessing that Facebook group is a place to go, right? I mean, just search that Facebook group and someone's asked it before.
Jacqueline just posted in the chat that Canada does have one. Awesome. And she's speaking as a Canadian, so I trust her.
How do you know that? Did she spell something differently? Was she extra polite in her message?
Something like that.
Okay, lots of questions on here about slides. Yes, we will send you the slides. What else? Address Finder from Kathy. Do we need to use Address Finder if it runs in the background on NXT? Austen, does that make sense?
Yeah, so it just sort of happens automatically, like the whole process. I would recommend that you go and check in on it. So sort of keep track of the dates that the system is planning to run it, and just go and see, if anything is returned as an exception, or if you need to keep the report kind of thing for your documentation, you'll need to go grab it because it will write over it every time. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Is there, Austen, when I go to make an online donation, is there a setting that you can put in Razor's Edge that forces me, like if I'm using Amazon or something, it forces me to put in a correct address, right? Like I just start typing it and it like pulls up a drop down. Is that something that exists out there? Not to put you on the spot.
Not that I know of,
yeah.
But maybe there's an idea for that in the idea bank that we should all go vote for.
That's right. That's right. A bunch of people asked about, I think when we were talking about the procedural manual. So this was when you said come up with like your standards. Are there templates out there? Is that what you shared that Spring had worked on, or is that something?
So she's great, by the way. She put together, samples that she's kept over the years and put them into a Google Drive. So you can if you go to her post on the community, we'll make sure to include it in the follow-up email. It has lots and lots of examples of things to look at.
Yep, awesome. Question in here that's not a question, it just said Andrew is awesome. Andrew, did you have your family join this webinar today? Is that a relative?
Probably. I paid them.
They probably felt bad because we're all giving Austen all the love, but it's true. Andrew is also awesome. There's a question, Andrew, about pricing for AskGenius. I don't know if I have that. I don't have that screen up, but I can put this guy back up. Move this over here.
Pricing's going to go down here quite significantly. So
it's the only time in my life I've ever rooted against Creighton is with this discount running. So the pricing it's relatively cheap. So it's a subscription service. The lowest end I think is $1,000 or $1,500. If you're a massive organization, there's a bunch of really large groups that are paying $10,000 or $15,000 a year, and it's just unlimited use of AskGenius to set those ask amounts for all their direct mail appeals that go out the door. So check out, if you haven't yet, AskGenius is our labor of love. It pays the bills for all of us to keep building in public and sharing everything we know. Sign up for that public demo on Thursday, and it'll be everything you ever wanted to know. It hits the big trifecta of saving you a bunch of time, raising you a lot more money, and honestly just being kind of fun to use, and you feel really smart. So check that out, and then you can root for the Blue Jays. I love the idea of hundreds of non-Creighton fans out there rooting for a big win to go to the Final Four. All right. What else do we got in there? Andrew, any other ones that we need to tackle here?
A quick one, Power Automate, does it work for database view or is it only for web view?
So how it's connected is through WebView, primarily through the connections, the connectors, I guess I should say. Not an expert here, citizen developer. But it talks primarily with WebView. But if you have data in database view that you want to use in a flow, there is a roundabout way to get that into Power Automate. So you direct it to look at a particular place in the cloud, and it can go grab CSV files.
Awesome. Austin, a couple of people asked this a couple different ways. So back to automation, it's a Microsoft product. There's also Zapier, which kind of works in without getting too into detail. We will have a lot of webinars on this. If someone's on G Suite or they don't use Office 365, is automation still an option for them?
Yes. So you will have to get an instance within, I think you can get Power Automate without getting an Office 365 account. It can be its own thing,
Yep.
I think.
Yep. Yep.
But there are connections within Power Automate to use G Suite products and applications. So it is entirely possible to be a G Suite org and still use Power Automate.
Yep, correct. Amy asked, did you say at least 2 users? Excuse me, the licenses for Power Automate. We always recommend, do you want to explain that about setting up 2 licenses?
Yeah, it's just as a backup, right? So that you have sort of multiple instances in your organization that can help manage flows.
But you don't need more than that, right? So like when we work with clients that have like 5 major gift officers, we're automating a process where like every morning those major gift officers open their laptop and there's like 10 emails drafted to their donors based on stuff that happened in the database. They don't each need a Power Automate license, correct?
Yeah, no, we did that off of one user license. Yeah.
Yep. So we recommend 2, just so you've got, we can get into more detail about why, but I guess it's more important for me to tell you, you don't need more than 2. You do not need to buy licenses for every person in your development office. Looking through here, we got a couple minutes left. Let's get specific. Austin, Colleen asks, what do you recommend for cleaning up addresses and salutations or attributes that are not on a constituent record, but a spouse or a contact?
Things get a little bit more complex.
You started John.
I mean, updating anything on a relationship is it's a little more elevated, but you can do it pretty easily through imports, as long as you get down sort of the syntax required for updating relationship records. There's a very comprehensive guide from Blackbaud on how to import things, and we can include that in our resources. But yeah, do it through import would be my suggestion.
Got it. Blackbaud. So there's some questions around the data health assessment. So to be correct me if I'm wrong, if you're using NXT, there is a data health scorecard that you can access that's free, right? And it like gives you a letter grade and it kind of runs through things and tells you how you compare. Is that right?
Yeah. And there's a separate one as well in database view that gives you a little bit more detail.
Yep. And then someone said that Blackbaud's willing to do that. I don't know if Blackbaud's just pulling your health scorecard for you and then telling you that they're doing something special, or if they're getting into more than that.
You have to like physically submit it, at least in database view.
Yep.
Like you have to like initiate it somehow. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I think that might be, Andrew, do you see any more that we need to cover that have been asked more than once here?
I don't at the moment. We'll if we didn't answer your question during this time, we'll reach out for sure and get those answers to you. So be on the lookout for an email from us. And just a reminder, so we'll send the slides, we'll send a recording to you this afternoon, and a couple other helpful links.
And that will come, sorry,
yeah,
that email will come from you, right? So just so they know, so you'll get an email from Andrew Menke at AskGenius. It's like, hey, here's a webinar on the slides. I'll probably email everybody as well and be like, hey, here's the automation, sign up if you didn't do it. And then here's our special Creighton Blue Jay promo, so you can sign up for a demo that way. Teresa Moore just asked, do you need to be on NXT to use AskGenius? No, you don't. In fact, I think more than half of the AskGenius users are not Razor's Edge users at all. You can use Salesforce, Bloomerang, Virtuous, whatever it is that you're on, that
Yep.
works with it. Okay, awesome. Austen, what do you think? How did it go?
I think it went well.
I think so. I think so too. We got to see all the nice comments, and you just had to keep talking. But
Yeah,
everybody,
I downloaded the chat so I could go read through it later.
love it. All right, so everybody, now's your chance to tell Austen thank you. We appreciate all of you. Again, PSG, AskGenius, we are committed to building in public. So this is what we do. If you're not on our newsletter, go to askgenius.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get an alert every time we do something like this. So we've talked about how to do fundraising emails, how to design your donation page. We've A/B tested how to write your fundraising letters. So like, we love doing this and running tests and sharing everything we know with the world. So make sure to sign up and check it out. We'll keep coming up with great ideas, and we keep asking you what you want to learn. And we do this every couple of weeks. So if you're new here, we thank you for coming. We'll see you again soon. We will get the recording out to everybody. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Austen. You did great. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.